name's Christine, aka Crafty Potential, and I'm a crafter for Tonic Studios, and in today's video we're going to be playing with the Dazzling Shaker Tags from Tonic Craft Kit number 98. We're going to create a gorgeous little shaker tag, and then I'm also going to show you how simple it is to add it to a card as a simple topper. So I've already created one of each of the gorgeous little shaker tags that you can create with this craft kit. I've done the longer one here with red foiling on the acetate. You also have a banner, so you don't have to foil onto the acetate if you don't want to. I've done gold foiling on this circular one, and then this longer portrait one, I have split up my foil fusion to be a stacked sentiment rather than all going in a line, and I've added it onto a simple card where I have used the Fair Isle knit embossing folder as my background. But in this video we're going to recreate this circular gift tag with a different sentiment so that it goes more on a card rather than no peeking for a present, and we're going to use the cable knit embossing folder as our background panel. I thought it'd be nice to switch it up, and this folder is absolutely gorgeous. So first of all, to create this gorgeous little shaker, we're going to need to use some of the dies from the kit. And I've gone with the circle one for this. So I have cut 2 circles from the lighter red coloured cardstock that we get in the kit, and then I've cut one of the frames from the metallic or mirror card from the kit as well. The reason why I've done 2 circles is because if you are using it as a gift tag, which I mean in this case we're not, so we don't necessarily need 2 circles, but if you accidentally stick the back tag on a little bit wonky and need to snip a little bit off so it's not showing from the front, you can then stick a second one on the back to make it look nice and neat, or you can just have it to make it extra strong to add your message to your recipient for using it as a tag. So 2 solid ones, 1 outside ring one. Then for our decoration, I have cut the solid tree from the darker green and the decorative tree from the lighter green. I've cut a tiny sprig of mistletoe from some gold mirror card. I've cut the holly die, which gives you 2 different holly sprigs from the light green card. I think we're going to go with the more modern looking one rather than the more spiky looking one. And then I've also cut the gorgeous little bow. This is absolutely adorable, this little bow. So sweet, and all of those pieces come in the same die, and it's really easy to layer up together. So the first thing that we want to do is put our sentiment on our acetate that's going to go in the bauble. You can do this straight onto a banner cut from card if you would rather, but I quite like the idea of the sentiment floating in front of the shaker elements inside, so we're actually going to add it to a piece of acetate. So I'm going to move these pieces off to the side just for now, because we want to get the glue drying on this part, which is why we want to go with the acetate first. So we get 2 sheets of the gorgeous heavyweight construction acetate from Tonic in the kit, which is fabulous, and it has a protective cover on one side. So what I was doing for the previous ones is I was taking the fall away circle from our actual frame, because we know that the acetate is only going to be seen in that area. Then I've been taking my scissors, cutting out a rough square or rectangle around that inside shape, and then putting this behind the acetate so we get the placement perfect in the centre of our acetate, so when we come to stick our frame over the top we're going to have enough and we're not going to have an open area where all the confetti is going to fall out or something. But before we put our foil fusion on this, we need to double check which side has the protective film on it. So I think it is on this side. Yes, it is. So just peel at the corner a little bit to get that little bit of protective film up so you can definitely tell which side it's on. Then put this side face down. So we're now working on this side, which doesn't have a protective film. It's only on one side of the acetate. Now we've got this in place with our circle behind, and what we want to do now is select our foil fusion sentiment. So I'm thinking Happy Holidays would be a really good one to go on here, because that's the kind of sentiment you would have on the front of a card, and we're going to be using this one as a topper. But this is going to be too wide for the design that I want to put on the outside of the frame. I want the Christmas tree to hang across here. So with any of your foil fusions, it doesn't harm them to cut them up and not use them as they're intended. So we can actually cut this into 2 words and use it as a stacked sentiment instead, which is really handy. And when you are doing it as a stacked sentiment, you can either foil each word separately so you can get them nice and close together, or you can just be wary of how much of this carrier sheet is above your word. So if you cut it off to the first word that you're going to put down, it means that when you stick the second word over the top, you're not going to be having to put it really far away to compensate for the little bit of film that's over the top of there if you want to do them at the same time. But you could do them one at a time if you didn't want to have to worry about that. So I'm going to take my Holidays foil fusion and place that roughly where I want it to go. Doesn't matter if it's not 100% because this piece of acetate is bigger than what we need. We just want that there as a kind of placement so we know that we're in the rough kind of place. And then because I have snipped really close to the Holidays there, we can also snip nice and close to the bottom of the word happy as well. And then we can peel this off and place this one over the top. I think I'm going to try and stack them but make them more central above each other rather than right or left justified. Then you want to bring in your glide folder and we can gently press down the transfers, making sure that we're getting right down into those tiny little details of the words. Okay, once we've got those pushed into place, we can carefully peel off the backing sheets like so, and then we've got 2 different colours of foil in this kit, but I'm making my shaker backing out of a red colour, so I don't think the red foil is going to show up very nicely, so I'm going to go with the gold foil to make my sentiment stand out really well. So I've got my little piece of gold foil, and I would recommend for cutting your foil, if you've had trouble with the serration on any of the Tonic scissors, go for the recoil scissors. They don't have a serrated blade on them and they cut the foil really nicely. So now we can place our foil over the top of our exposed adhesive on those transfers and burnish it gently into place to get all of the foil to stick to our greeting. Okay, there we go. If there's any excess foil, you can just sort of rub across and it will come off. So there we go, we've got Happy Holidays in gold foil onto our acetate. Now, this is the part where we want to leave it to dry for a little bit. So we've got our circular frame and we've got our Happy Holidays on our acetate. I'm kind of referring back to this one. You can also plan out your design first before putting your sentiment on here. Obviously I've already made this one so I know the design that I want to do, but before I made this one I had all my die cuts and I placed them all on top of each other and took a photo so I knew exactly where I wanted them to go, so I would know exactly where to add the sentiment. And you see this sort of bottom section here is where we want the sentiment to be to not interfere with any of the decoration on here. So now I'm going to take my glue and I'm going to go around the perimeter of the frame but not around that eyelet part at the top, because we don't need that to be stuck to the acetate. We want that hole to be clear to be able to add our string through. So now we just want to place this over the top of our sentiment, pressing it down nice and firmly, and then we can leave this glue to dry whilst we assemble the rest of the decorative elements to go on our shaker. So we'll leave that over there, and then let's bring in our Christmas tree. So for this we just want to use a tiny little bit of glue on all of the little details on here, and we're also going to decorate this with some of the confetti that we're going to put inside the shaker as well, because we get 2 packs of gorgeous confetti or embellishments in this month's kit as well that work perfectly for creating your shakers. So we've got our little tree there. Then I want this holly for later on, and I also want this mistletoe for later on, and then we need to stack up our little bow as well. So you have the complete bow, and then you have the sort of bunny ears portion if you tie a bow like that, and then the tails as well, and then you have the tiny little bit that goes in the middle too. So the way I've been doing it is I've not been sticking them down entirely. I've sort of bent them in the middle, put a bit of glue in the centre, and then put it down so that it has a little bit of dimension to it when it's all stuck together. And the same with the sort of bow pieces for the top as well. So we can put this one on too. And then we have our tiny little piece for the centre that we can add a little bit of glue to, and then place this in the centre of our bow as well. And it looks absolutely adorable when it's all put together like this. So cute, little tiny bow. It looks really, really cute when it's on the gift tags as well. So now we've got those there. As I said, we want to add some embellishment onto this little tree as well. I've got some of the confettis sprinkled out to the side of me so that I could easily pick them up without tipping too many out onto my desk. So I'm just picking up a few of the circles and a couple of the stars. And this is the same confetti we're going to put in our shaker. It's this gorgeous pack here with green stars and red circles, and it comes in your kit. So to stick these on, there's like different ornaments on the sort of tinsel or strings going around this tree. There's two that are sort of longer, and on those two I'm going to put a star, and the other four I'm going to put a red circle. So I'm just going to put little circles of glue on all of those pieces there, and then we're going to go with a star up here, a star on this one, and then the little circle confetti on the other four. You can use tweezers for this if you'd rather. I'm so used to using my fingers to put them into position, but do use tweezers if you find that more helpful. And then the final one. You could also use some of these red dots for the berries on your holly, but we're going to be hiding that, so we don't actually need them on this project. But they would work really nicely for other projects as well. But there we go. And the glue will dry clear on those red ones as well. But we've got a lovely little decorated Christmas tree. So now while those are drying, let's come back and work on our shaker. So for this, you can see that protective film just came off the back of it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our scissors and sort of undercut a tiny bit around the edge of our circle frame. And remember, we don't need any acetate behind this top loop, so we can just undercut behind that. And just go all of the way around the edge. Then normally with a shaker, you would turn this over and you would put your 3D foam all of the way around the perimeter of this. However, if we do it that way round, it's going to be harder, I think, to line up because we'll be sort of working with this with confetti in it and trying to line up the one on the back. So what I've been doing is we know, I mean you can line it up to check, but we know that the foam tape needs to go within this sort of dent within the actual die. It's kind of got an indented piece in there. So as long as we make sure our foam is within that little edge perimeter, we're going to be fine, and it's not going to show through the top of this. So what we can do is add our foam around this, put our shaker bits in here, and then put like the lid on top of it. It's so much easier to do it that way. Plus, you do get a set of 5mm square foam pads in your kit, and you can definitely use these. You may have to trim them a little bit narrower so that they're not visible behind the actual frame of your shaker, but I do recommend, and I'm going to use this, to use foam tape, any foam tape that you have, and it's just so much easier for creating a shaker around something that isn't straight edged. So all I'm going to do for this is I'm going to go less width than the frame. So I think the frame's probably about 4mm wide. So I'm just going to snip strips of this off in roughly 3mm kind of width. Just something that is less than the width of your frame. Then I'm taking the backing off because it is much easier to manoeuvre your foam tape if you don't have that backing on there, especially around a curved surface. So I'm going around and I'm trying to line up more with the outside edge rather than the inside edge. So you can see I'm going closer to the outside as I put the foam tape around, and we can cut another piece here and take the backing off of this. butt that up against the first one, and then again we're following round, trying to go closer to the outside edge, just so that no foam tape is going to be visible at all inside our shaker. And I've got a tiny bit left. I don't think that's quite long enough to go that way, so we'll cut it this way. And we can butt this up against the previous one, curve it round, and then snip off the excess where they join. So we've now got our whole like shaker well portion, but it's on our backing piece. And now we can take our gorgeous confetti. You get 2 different ones to pick from in your kit, so you can choose whichever one you want to. I'm going for the stars with the sort of round berry pieces, and I'm going to take my Nuvo spoon, because it makes it really easy for precise kind of placement on this, and you're not tipping and accidentally getting things stuck to the foam tape. And you can put as much or as little in your shaker as you want. I do prefer a little bit less in my shaker, just so that you can actually see the things shaking around and it actually moves rather than being stuck in position. So once we've got our shaker elements in there, we can add the lid of our shaker on. Now, it's not quite the same with the other 2, but because this one is circular, this piece can go anywhere, and you kind of want to focus more on lining up your frame. You can just ignore this piece, because the great thing is we can just snip it off the back one if we don't line it up. So just go for focusing on the frame for this one. On the other shapes, you kind of have to line this up as well, but it's really easy to do because it's such a wibbly kind of shape. But with the circle, it can go on at any orientation. So, I mean, you kind of want to aim for upright because of the way that your sentiment is on there, but it doesn't have to be like 100% accurate on there. We can snip that off if it doesn't line up. So we can now bring this in and place this down onto there, pressing it really firmly around the edge to make sure there's a good strong bond around there. And you can see I didn't get it lined up, so all we're going to do, I didn't get it lined up on the other circular one either. We're just going to go in there and snip that off, because we are going to add a second one on the back anyway. This will make it nice and neat if you are using it as a gift tag, but we're not going to use it as a gift tag, but I thought we might as well just put it on there anyway. So now we've got that part of our shaker done. We want to take the second one, add glue to that kind of eyelet loop piece and all over the back of this panel as well. And then we can place that on the back, lining up those eyelets this time because we want those to match nicely, and the rest will just fall into position, and then we can pinch this together while the glue dries so those eyelets actually lock together. So we've got that part now. And now we can add on our decoration. So for this, I think I'm going to add it with a bit of 3D foam to give it a little bit of extra dimension. So I'm just going to cut a triangular piece because it's only going to be hanging on to the gift tag on one side of it. So I think a skinny triangle will work nicely to hold that on. And we can press that into position. Then on this top portion, I want to add these little holly sprigs. So I'm going to put a little dollop of glue there, and I'm going to add the little holly onto there. You've got a lovely circle on that, which is great for a berry, but it's also great for adding glue behind as well. Then I want to add my mistletoe, but this stalk is a little bit too long and will show behind the bow. So I'm just going to trim the stalk off, then put some glue on the top section of this, and then place this here. And you can see, because we looked at our placement, it's not going to interfere with our sentiment on here. So we can push that into position, and then we've got our stunning tiny little bow to go over that and cover the join of where everything is joining on there. So we can add a little bit more glue and then press that into position like so. And then the next step is to take some twine. This can be baker's twine, it can be metallic thread, it can be anything that you have in your stash that would work. And then you just want to loop a piece in half, take the loop in the middle, thread the loop through the front of your eyelet at the top of your tag, and then pass the tails of your string through that loop. And then when you bring that up, it's going to give a nice neat finish on the front of your little tag there. And then normally you would just like tie a knot further up here so you can have it as a little hanging tag, or it could be a decoration on a Christmas tree as well. But we want to actually turn this one into a card. So I've got my embossed panel here using the cable knit embossing folder from Tonic, and I want this to be sort of a little bit more towards the top of my card. So what I'm going to do is take some tissue tape from Tonic, add a few pieces on the back, remove the backing, fold in any excess. I'm also going to add some wet glue as well, just because we're going on to embossed card. The glue will get down into all of the little crevices in the card. And then we can place this onto our front panel exactly where we want it, press it into position, and then you can pull the ends of your string through to the back of the card, and then you can also secure this on the back with a little bit more tape. Then all that's left to do is to add it onto your card blank, and you've got a really simple card using one of the gorgeous Santa's Shaker tags from this month's Tonic Craft Kit. And you can go with the circle tag on a card, you can do the circle as a separate tag with no peeking in there. I've also done the sort of more portrait tag on a card as well. And then we've got the more landscape tag just as a gift tag too, using some of the foil fusion on the candy cane and also the foil fusion onto gold mirror cardstock on this one as well to give a different look. Plus you can also take some of those gorgeous Christmas trees and just create a simple card using them as well. So I really hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one. Bye!